What's up guys, welcome to Daily Dose of Reddit. This is your host, Zach, and today's subreddit is r/MaliciousCompliance.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode.
This story's called, Why Don't You Share with the Whole Class? What I wrote is longer and more invested than the situation called for. But to be fair, at the time, I also did more and was more invested than the situation called for. If you don't want to read my inappropriately detailed recollection, I'll put the TLDR at the top. Also, English is my only language and I have no excuse for my writing. Please correct and mock my grammar if you so desire. This is years ago for my first semester in community college. My senior year of high school, I was not allowed to take math because my mom pissed off the school counselors and school district. Seriously, the situation was dumb, but her yelling at people made it worse. This sucked because I love math, and I knew I wanted to major in engineering once I had a good enough GPA to transfer to university. As a result, my first semester, I retook algebra so I could have a refresher before continuing to higher math. Story. Due to a combination of my love of math and the fact that I had taken it before, I did well in my course with very little effort. Other students sought me out as a homework buddy, and I made a fun little group of friends. We sat together, did homework together, and shared notes. It was great. But the math teacher was old school, in the worst way. This math teacher was like the most cartoon version of a math teacher ever. She wore long, black turtlenecks every day, despite our November weather being hotter than most places in July. She also would only use chalk. The classroom had 4 whiteboards, but only 1 chalkboard, meaning that she constantly had to erase her previous work. And while that was a little bit annoying, she was constantly shaking dust everywhere because every time she erased the board, she got chalk all over her black top. Her constant cloud of dust irritated everyone's allergies, which made her monotonous and confusing lessons even harder to pay attention to, especially because she spent half the class getting dust off her shirt and the other half calling out anyone who sneezed too loud for interrupting the lesson. Now, I know that while weird, this combination of behaviors was mostly just annoying, so we all just dealt with it until our group started working together in her class. Our group started working on homework and studying for tests together, which made us realize we had vastly different grades. I was pretty sure she hated me because she was constantly calling me out for talking. I try not to talk when teachers talk because I think it's rude, but I don't think it's rude to quietly share notes with my neighbor when she erases the board before I can finish taking notes. But despite constantly calling me out, she would give me full credit on a bunch of problems that she would mark my friends down for, despite having the same work and answers on the page. In particular, she seemed to hate my friend who I studied the most with, which I never understood. This girl was always punctual, polite, took notes, and worked hard to get a great GPA while working to put herself through college. Now, my friend wasn't as good at math as me, but she was very smart and picked it up quickly when we studied together. She never copied my homework, but would ask me or a tutor if she didn't understand until she understood the concept. But despite doing problems the same way as me and getting the same answer as me, the teacher docked a bunch of points saying she didn't show enough work. She would also pull this crap on other students, though less frequently. Even if they tried to talk to her and show her that every step was on the work submitted, she would still say it wasn't good enough. This kept happening until I got annoyed and started going up with my assignments and the other kids to show that we had the same steps and amount of work written down, but theirs was marked down and mine was fine. I'm pretty sure the only reason she didn't retaliate against me was because when she tried this on me at the beginning of the semester, it didn't work. I always write every single step, know algebra well enough that she couldn't convince me that I missed a step, and refused to back down until she either gave me a real reason for losing points, which was impossible, I followed the syllabus and read the school's policies on homework, or she fixed it. In the end, she did fix it. For the rest of the semester, I made it my mission to protect the class. I constantly clarified directions, I checked people's homework and let them borrow mine if they got marked down. I would question unclear problems till she relented and accepted multiple answers. And I did this all with what my husband calls polite, belligerent confusion. I wasn't out to punish the teacher. I cared and wanted to make sure we understood her explanations. Basically, I was super invested and clearly cared, but also forced her to make clear and public requirements for every assignment, which super annoyed her, but she would look like a massive jerk if she acted annoyed. Every day, she had a printed attendance sheet that we were supposed to fill out to mark attendance. She was really picky with it, so if you walked in late but didn't want to walk in front of the class during her lesson, she wouldn't let you sign in after class and marked you absent. About 4 weeks before the end of the semester, her printer broke, so she didn't have an attendance sheet. She said she would deal with it the following class. The following class, the printer was still broken. Now, most teachers would either give us a free attendance or find a different way to do what they had been doing all semester. She instead decided that she would pass around notebook paper and ask us to write both dates if we were present for both classes. This would have been fine if she hadn't announced this 10 minutes before class started and before 50% of the class was in the room. This included me. About 15 minutes into the lesson, the paper finally made its way back to me. While my friend had made it early enough to know what to do, I was confused because only some of the kids wrote on it before passing it on. After she explained it to me, I decided to check with the next kids to get it to make sure they knew what to do before I handed off the paper. Initially, I was trying to explain it to the next guy, figuring he could pass the message on. But instead, the next 3 people were trying to listen and ask me questions. Halfway through the explanation, the next 2 people also started asking questions. At this point, to try and avoid interrupting the lesson as much as possible, I told the other 2 people that I would tell them in a minute so I didn't have to whisper shout. So I explained it to my close neighbors, then moved next to the other people so I could try to explain it to them more covertly. 50% of the way through the second explanation, I heard that disapproving noise teachers make. She then attempted to shame me for talking during the lesson in the worst possible way. "Why don't you share with the whole class?" she asked. "Thank you, that would be great," I responded, maliciously complying with her request. I then stood up, raised my voice to address the whole class, and explained the attendance sheet for everyone. I finished by profusely thanking her for letting me speak, and I finished by apologizing for interrupting because I get confused easily, and I didn't want that to happen to anyone else. In the end, I took less than 1 minute of class time, guaranteed that all my peers got marked as present, and super pissed her off in a super respectful way. After that class, the school suddenly assigned a tutor to our class who attended every class. I'm not sure the tutor was there because the teacher complained or if more students complained. In the end, we were happier because we had someone who actually answered our questions after class, and I think the teacher was happy because now she didn't have to talk to us outside of class time. Well, first of all, that teacher needs to not be a teacher because she obviously doesn't like, the responsibility that comes with being a teacher. So this is why I love teachers, actually, because every single time I've ever needed help, they always helped me. And in my experience, they always want to help you. They literally beg you to come after class, come after school, or come before school so that they can help you. And they have so many times. Obviously, this teacher doesn't want to put in the work. I don't know why she's a teacher. And if you are a teacher and you're cool, I love you, and hit me up. This story's called Mandatory Late Night Call After You Made Me Hourly? Yes, sir! Please remember that I am a native English speaker typing on a desktop keyboard, so any spelling grammar mistakes are my own stupid fault. So, quick background. I work for a big national company, which I will not name because I like being employed. And we have a big software system that the entire company relies on to wrap stuff up and get it ready for the client. It's that last choke point bottleneck where, if it dies, literally all the work the rest of the company does is for naught. I run this system at the grunt work day-to-day operational level. This system also typically has upgrades and fixes installed about every 2 weeks, and they always wait until the late night on Friday to bring it down and do the install so that it doesn't impact daily business. Now, when these installs occur, they always get a bunch of people on a call to go through everything and make sure it all works before calling it good for Monday. Being the guy who runs the system all the time, I was always required to be on these calls. I hated them. The calls started at 10 p.m. Friday night, so I couldn't go out and enjoy my weekend. It would last about 2 hours while the developers installed stuff, and at the very end, I pushed one button to kick things off so the suits could see that it was working and everybody was happy. This was literally monkey work, and everyone on those calls could have done it. I volunteered to teach them how. But no, they wanted me on the call. I was salary at the time, so not exactly like I could say no, and I wasn't getting paid anything extra for it. Can you see where this is going yet? Okay, so a few years ago, guidelines changed at the government level saying that anyone who made XX amount per year or less couldn't be defined as salary. They had to be hourly to stop companies from abusing glorified part-time workers. I made more than that, but the company went overboard because I was somewhere in the general ballpark and they didn't want to risk it, so bam, I'm now hourly. Roughly 2 weeks later, it's deployment call time. I ask if I'm really required to be there or not. Boss man says yes. I don't complain because at least now I get paid for it. Oh, but wait, this isn't any normal deployment. No, this is a big one. They tell me I need to be on the calls that will start up at 5 o'clock right as I'd normally be clocking out for the day. Thinking it would be a quick check-in and then back out until 10 o'clock, I dutifully call in. Nope, this call lasts from 5 o'clock until 10 o'clock when we got to take all of a 5 minutes break and get into the other call. Now I'm home shored, so I'm sitting on this call in my underwear and nothing going on requires any input from me at all. Again, I'm not complaining because I'm getting paid for this. And I've got Netflix on in the background. Not only am I getting paid since I did my full 40 hours that week already, this was overtime. So 10 o'clock deployment stuff starts going on and by midnight, we get to my part. I push the button. I tell them it's going to take about 20 to 30 minutes to process before we know if it worked. Half hour of twiddling thumbs later, it fails. Some cursing from dev as they try to go fix whatever borked, and I got to spend another 30 minutes resetting all the data so we can try again. Once everything is ready, I push the button. 30 minutes later, it fails again. Fast forward several hours. It's now 5 o'clock Saturday morning. It still hasn't run properly. Everybody is cranky except me because, baby, I got dollar signs in my eyes. 12 hours of overtime for watching Netflix and doing monkey work is gonna be sweet. Except it was even better than I thought at the time. That Saturday was technically some minor holiday. My company pays time and a half if you work on a holiday. So I had 7 hours of overtime and 5 hours of overtime with additional time and a half. I ended up making over half a week's pay overnight from that call. My boss flipped when he saw the check I was supposed to get. I reminded him that I had asked in email with half the team copied if he really needed me on that call, and that he said I absolutely had to be. Unlike some of the bosses I read about on here, he swallowed his defeat gracefully. I got a huge paycheck that period, and oddly enough, I have not been required to attend a single one of those calls since then. I wonder why. Side note, Dev worked on it all weekend and got it running by Monday morning, so we were fine. I don't get how he sat through those calls when he wasn't getting paid overtime for it. That's just redonk-a-donk, dog. I would have ripped my hair out like 45 times the first time. And also, if you're a boss that intentionally wastes your employees' time because you can, I guess, you're a jerk and you don't deserve to be a boss, and I hope they fire you. This story's called Can't Work Remotely? Guess it's time for vacation or sick leave then. As you can imagine, a lot of companies are figuring out how to manage remote staff right now in response to COVID-19. I am a social media manager for a large university and am considered essential staff for some instances. If there's a snow day, I can work from home but need to monitor social channels for questions, problems, etc. Weeks before the virus got as widespread as it is now in the US, I asked my supervisor to consider remote options as my husband and I had been keeping a close look at its progression abroad, and he has an autoimmune disease, but I was literally laughed at and told it would never happen. Last week, our university announced that they'd be shifting to online learning for 3 weeks. I again asked if we'd be given remote options at this time as well to help flatten the curve. And given that my job can be done literally anywhere, it shouldn't be a problem. I again was told nope. As essential staff, I'd absolutely have to come in and more details would be given in an HR email later that day. HR email comes in and affirms that all staff were expected to come in as normal, about 4,000 employees, and if you wanted to take time at home, you'd need to take personal or vacation vacation or sick time. Staff could call or email HR and make individual cases to request remote work, but I'm in the state with the 4th highest cases of COVID-19 right now, and we all know college campuses are cesspools for disease, so staff is livid. The next day, I emailed my supervisor again and told them that I contacted HR, saying that if I don't get approval for remote work, I'm going to follow email protocol and take sick leave for the foreseeable future. Luckily, I'm in a union and can request up to 26 weeks of 100% paid sick leave for myself or caring for family, and I knew it would get approved. I said the ball was in their court, and they could either have me at home actually working, or have me at home and be down an essential staff member. Silence. In the meantime, I got a phone call back from HR from a frantic employee who said they received literally thousands of emails and phone calls similar to the one I sent and could expect an update by the end of the day. Turned out, I was not the only one threatening their bosses with time off. At 5 p.m., we got an email that all staff and classes are remote until further notice. I know it's likely they would have eventually made this call anyway, but I'd like to think the thousands of employees threatening malicious compliance made it happen sooner. You know what? I like to think that too. I love it when people get things done despite stupid leadership. And honestly, this is a pro tip for anyone that's a boss or something. If you make a stupid decision and you don't want to look like an ass, literally just apologize and say, you know what, you're right, I understand. Because you know what, if their opinion is worth caring about, they wouldn't hold resentment for you because you're being honest and you're saying, hey, you know what, I'm sorry. You're right, you probably should work at home right now. And I realize I made a judgment error earlier, so yeah, I'm sorry. And you know what? They respect you. And one more thing, you are now a cool boss, an understanding boss, and a caring boss that cares about their employees and aren't, a jackass. People respect leaders who accept accountability.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode.